Hi everybody, Amber here with the Peoria Public Library, and today I have another quick craft for you, but it's not going to be so much of a tutorial, but rather an idea slash skill builder for those of you who like to crochet. For me, I've been crocheting for a number of years, longer than I care to admit, but let's just say it's been a long time. And when I started crocheting, I was making blankets, I was making scarves, I was making hats. And after a while, there's only so many blankets you can make for people. There's only so many scarves you can make for people. And there's only so many hats that you want to make. So I started looking for something new to build on my skill, to give me something that would be fun, maybe something fast. Making blankets is a lot of fun, I'm not going to lie. And I love making blankets for charity work. But sometimes I just want something small and easy to do, something that'll give me that sense of accomplishment after maybe a long day. And so I started looking for something new, and I happened to be at the library when I was trying to find something to give me inspiration, and this book came across my desk. This is called Amigurumi, and what Amigurumi is it is a Japanese term used to describe small knitted or crocheted stuffed toys, and it's kind of expanded over time to just usually refer to kind of cutesy stuffed or not even stuffed toys that are kind of whimsical, kind of lifelike. It's just become an overarching term. And so I started reading through this book because it was really the first time I had seen a book that was dedicated to crochet and not knitting. No disrespect to knitters out there. You guys make some amazing things. I just don't knit. I am capable of doing so, but apparently I do it upside down and backwards. That may have to be something because I'm left-handed, but whatever. So anyway, I started reading up on amigurumi and finding some great patterns out there, not just in this book, but in several books in the library. These are two of my favorite examples because what I really discovered I loved making was making crocheted food. But there are plenty of books on amigurumi at your library and available at lots of libraries out there. So you may want to check our catalog and see what's out there for you, what strikes your interest with building on your crochet skill. There are also lots of patterns online. Proceed with caution with those. There are some really great patterns out there, and there's hundreds, if not millions, of free patterns out there. But like I said, proceed with caution because sometimes they aren't explained really well, or they're skipping steps because they assume you know something. Sometimes they're in a foreign language, and it's really hard to translate that, especially since a lot of outside of the U.S., there's different terminology for the same stitches. I know there's a difference between U.S. and U.K. terminology with doubles and triples, and they're called, you know, trebles and stuff like that. So it can get a little confusing if you're not used to reading a lot of patterns. But what amigurumi can do for you is it can really help you build the skill of pattern reading, which then helps you with other projects later down the line. Amigurumi uses some very simple tools, probably stuff that you already have on hand. If you're anything like me, you have purchased all the stuff that you needed to make a blanket. You get done, you have scrap yarn left over, you put it off to the side, you come across another thing you want to make, you buy more yarn, you make that, you take your scrap yarn and put it off to the side. And if you're very much like me, I apologize because it can get overwhelming after a time, and you could end up like me and have a closet full of yarn. That is affectionately in my house known as Yarnia because it's kind of magical, kind of scary. You never know what you're going to find when you open that door. So this is a way to use up all that scrap yarn you have left over. Don't worry if you don't have the right colors. Who cares if you make blue strawberries? You're learning something new, and it's just for yourself to build on your skill. If after a while you want to make sure you have the right yarn, by all means, go buy more yarn to add to your own Yarnia. But use it now to build on your already great techniques that you have for crocheting. So you're going to need your supplies. First and foremost, get out that box of scrap yarn. I have one very small box of scrap yarn right here. Like I said, it's not the only one in my house. Go ahead and get your crochet hooks. A lot of patterns in Amigurumi, especially the smaller ones, are going to call for smaller hooks. Don't worry, they're not going to quite get to lace hooks. These tiny steel hooks are for lace work that uses string. You're not going to need that yet. I use standard acrylic yarn, and a lot of times I actually use an H hook, but you're not going to want to go much bigger than that, simply because you could end up making a lemon of a lemon. So stick with your smaller hooks, but don't worry if you don't have quite the right size. You might just end up with slightly bigger or slightly smaller item that you would plan to make. Have your scissors. You're going to need these to cut your yarn. I know a lot of people like to pop their yarn when they're finished with it. With stuffies, it's going to add a little bit more stress to the yarn that you probably don't want to have. So use the scissors to cut off your extra. The other thing you're going to need is a bag of polyfill. This is actually quite a large bag of polyfill, and that's because I bought it when I was working on a project years ago, and I thought I was going to need a lot more, but now the next time I get a wild hair to do some amigurumi, I'm all set. So that's what you're going to need. You've got your yarn, your hooks, your scissors, your polyfill, and your pattern. Okay? So you make your item. There are some supplementary supplies that you may want to consider having for your amigurumi making, especially if you're new to it and you're not sure how to do certain things. One of them is you might need a stuffing stick. I actually have a couple here that came with my polyfill. It does come in the bigger bags from time to time. Do be careful because sometimes they're actually quite pointy. This is for when you're making something that you need to put stuffing in, and maybe it's a small piece and you can't quite get your finger in there to stuff it correctly. It's not actually a required item because you can take the, well, not in this case, this is one of my ergonomic hooks, but you can take the blunt edge of your crochet hook and use that to stuff just as well. Just do be careful not to, one, poke the stuffing through your item because sometimes, like I said, the points are sharp and that hurts, and two, don't be too rough with it even if you're just using the blunt edge of your crochet hook because you don't want to mess with the yarn fabric you're creating. The other thing you might want to consider getting is some tapestry needles or some blunt tip plastic needles, and this is just for finishing off your items. Perfect example I found in my room is this. I believe it was supposed to be a meatball for a spaghetti and meatballs platter I made. It's possibly a donut hole. I'm not quite sure what I did, but it's got a tail. And meatballs and donut holes don't usually have tails. So if I were going to finish this off, I'd take my tapestry needle, thread the edge of the tail through all of the toy so that eventually this wouldn't show, and then I'd have a tailless meatball / donut hole. You can also use it to create features onto your amigurumi. A good example I have here is I have a potato, and I used my tapestry needle to weave some yarn through and create the dimples in the potato. It can also be used, in this case for the pepper, to create kind of the dents on the pepper. Use some string, and it had to go through a bunch of this the stuffed toy, and I wasn't going to get a crochet hook through that. But in a lot of cases it's not required because I could take a small crochet hook and just use it to weave the ends in and not have so long of a tail. You don't want to cut your tails too close because you run the risk of it unthreading and then you end up with a bunch of yarn and some loose stuffing. Not every amigurumi pattern requires a stuffing and a stuffing stick. One of my favorites is this sandwich I made I've got curls on the ends, I've got an olive on top, I've got all the features that make sandwiches great. Not a single ounce of stuffing in this. In fact, my olive is not stuffed. It's just got some yarn stuck into it. I can quite easily flatten it. So the other thing you might want to keep in mind for a supplementary supply is you can get something called safety eyes, like I have here on this toy. I do not recommend using googly eyes and sticking them, mostly because googly eyes will fall off eventually. It doesn't stick very well to acrylic yarn. Safety eyes come with a fastener on the back, so once you get to a point where you decide where the eyes are going to go, you stick them on before you stuff it, and then you can't pull them off. Safety eyes I got at a craft store in just the toy making aisle. They come in lots of shapes, lots of sizes, lots of colors. I used to have actually a whole box of it. I don't know what I did with it. I haven't used safety eyes in a while because I don't need eyeballs on my food things that I make. So using your basic skills that you started with crochet, you can make yourself a handful of popcorn for a treat. You can make your own fruit and veggie basket that you don't have to worry about the produce going bad. You can make stuffed toys. You can find anything that you want to out there for a pattern. Check with the library, check online, and we hope to see you guys soon when it's safe for us to reopen. Have a good day. Bye.